Good morning and welcome to the second class of our family history course. Today we're going to be talking about how to search for genealogy primary sources online. So let's start with why should we look online? Well, it's easy. All you need is some very basic information that you should have gathered in your family interviews that we talked about last class, and you can find a wealth of information. Going online means that you have many different sources all in one location. Before the internet, people used to have to invest time in traveling to many different locations, and they had to browse through hundreds of materials to find the information they needed. The online resources we'll be looking at today bring all these sources to a central location that can be accessed from anywhere and can be easily filtered to find the exact information you're looking for. Going online now will save you time later on. The more that you can flesh out your pedigree chart and the more information you can gather about your ancestors will help you later on when you decide to take the next step of traveling to a research library or a genealogy archive. Having information in advance will allow you to make efficient use of your on-site time. So we've talked about in the past what a primary and a secondary source are, but let's review that really quickly. A primary source is an eyewitness account of an event or a time period, and it was usually created during or close to the event or time period being described. A secondary source is an interpretation of primary sources about an event or time period, and it usually is created after a significant period of time has passed from the event or time period. The main difference to remember is the degree of separation from the creation of the source and the event or time period it describes. Remember, primary sources are created by eyewitnesses. Secondary sources are interpretations of those eyewitness materials. Actually, we're going to be creating secondary sources. You are going to be the family historian, and you're going to be using primary source information to help you create a family narrative. Here are some primary sources that may be helpful to you: letters, journals and diaries, family Bibles, newspapers that were contemporary to the event or time period when your ancestors were alive, interviews, those family interviews that you did to help you get ready for today's class, those are primary sources, speeches, laws that were contemporary to the event or time period, and government-created documents. That means census forms, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses. And these are actually going to be the primary sources that we're going to focus on today. When looking for primary sources online, we have a wide selection of sources to choose from. First off, there's Family Search. Family Search is a website that is free, and it's owned and operated by the Mormon Church. Right now, you don't need an account to search for materials on Family Search, but some items do require an account to view them. If you do open up an account, you can also save things to your personal family tree or pedigree chart. But you will need a grown-up person to help you sign up for an account if you decide that's something that you will want to do. The next source we have is Heritage Quest. Heritage Quest is free, and it requires a library card in order to access it. Heritage Quest started its life as a ProQuest database. Remember ProQuest? We talked about that when we were working on our research papers. It's where you can find scholarly articles and journal articles. So Heritage Quest started as a ProQuest database, and it's very similar to Ancestry. In fact, if you look at Heritage Quest and the Ancestry.com websites, they look very similar, and that is because Heritage Quest has partnered with Ancestry to allow both sites to have access to the other's materials. However, Heritage Quest does have some resources that Ancestry doesn't have. Certain periodicals, Freedmen's Bank information, and information that's been transcribed from genealogy and family history books are available on Heritage Quest, but not Ancestry. Ancestry.com is, as I mentioned before, it requires a subscription, so that means you have to pay for it. However, some libraries have a subscription to Ancestry.com that you can access using your library card while inside the library. So that means you can't access it for free from home. However, you can access Ancestry for Virginians from home. You can access it through the library website. Ancestry.com partnered with the Library of Virginia, which is our state library in Richmond, to digitize certain materials that were housed at the state library. So in exchange for Ancestry to have access to those materials, they allow Virginians to access their digitized copies of the Library of Virginia's materials. Fold3 is another popular online genealogy resource. Like Ancestry.com, it requires a subscription. However, some libraries do have a subscription that you can access with a library card. Unfortunately, our library doesn't have access to this, and our library doesn't provide access to Ancestry.com. Only Ancestry for Virginians. If you're interested in Fold3, Fold3 offers access to digitized military records. Our library, as I said, doesn't have access to this database, but if you want to access it, I have a way of accessing it that I can help you with one-on-one. Today, we're going to be focused on the resources that our library has access to that you can access from your home. FamilySearch.com, which anyone can access, Heritage Quest, and Ancestry for Virginians, which you do have to access through the library website. So let's gather our supplies and materials before we get started searching. You're going to need a computer with good internet connection. You're going to need your Mary Riley Stiles Public Library library card. You'll want your genealogy notebook so that you can take notes. And you will need your pedigree chart. Let's go over those pedigree charts again. So remember, a pedigree chart shows you and your ancestry. Some people also refer to it as a family tree. Your pedigree chart should be filled out with as much information as you have on your family members and how they're related to one another as possible. This is my pedigree chart. You can see down at the bottom, there's me, Meredith Miller, and then I have my parents' names, and then I am looking and interested in my mother's side of the family. So you can see that from Pamela Miller, my mother, I have her parents listed, Flora and Joseph Holland, and I'm really interested in tracking down the names of my great-grandparents on my maternal grandfather's side, so that means my mother's father's side of the family. And to help me with that, I have found as much information as I can from my grandfather about his family. I have the names of his brothers, and so that information is going to help me. I also have my grandfather's date of birth. I know when he and my grandmother got married, and all of this information is going to help me when I go on to Family Search, onto Heritage Quest, and onto Ancestry for Virginians to help me find information on who my maternal grandfather's parents were. So let's get started.